Look, this is something that's been going on forever. I mean, I know to get into the details of the story, because I know it's just another link in the chain, right? Nancy Pelosi, long story short, her and her husband, a couple of weeks ago, or mid-March, around March 19th, they disclosed or they made a purchase of up to $10 million worth of Microsoft stock. So just
that's fucked up that they don't have to tell you exactly how much it is. But is that between 500,000 and like a million times? It's like you kind of get like a ballpark.
Yeah, well, you can see from the forms that everything disclosed on these forms is going to be kind of like a range, right?
Yeah,
500 to a million, or 500,000 to a million to 5 million.
I don't know about you, but 500 G's is a lot of range for somebody like me. Like that's a lot of fucking range.
Also, isn't Roblox like a fucking computer game? Like I used to have a friend that played that.
Yeah, my daughter's probably playing it right now. To be honest with you, but
is that where we're all going to end up, like the fucking Matrix that they're getting ready or whatever?
Maybe that might be why they're investing in it.
Yeah, exactly.
But the purchase itself, if you just look at it, is something that she's been doing for forever, right? Like people always ask, she exploded her net worth since she's been into office, and that's how. I mean, she's playing the stock market like a pro. But then you start looking into a little bit more detail. So what happened before she made this transaction? Well, according to Sludge, the online publication, she actually was the head of a committee that blocked an amendment from being added into HR1 that would have made congressmen and women and their spouses independent children move all of their assets into blind trusts, right? And then a couple of weeks later, of course, she makes this transaction. And then a couple of weeks later, the Pentagon announces that they've given Microsoft a $22 billion contract to make augmented reality headsets for the U.S. military. And of course, Microsoft's stock price jumps on the news, as you would expect. And, to be honest with you, since she's made this purchase, I mean, stock's already been up like $25 at least per share. So she's made a killing already on this. And so the question
is this not fucking illegal, man? Like, that's what I want to know. Like, I know this is like a lame question or whatever. And we know the reason it's not illegal is because of fucking blatant corruption in our government. But this is just fucking absurd what you're telling us.
Yeah, that's literally insider trading, correct?
If it was me or you, yes.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I mean, well, the way I look at it is this. I mean, Nancy Pelosi she's like what, third in line for the presidency, number one. So she's a very, very important and powerful person. Number two, she's having conversations in buildings that we'll never be able to get into with people we'll never meet about things we'll never know about.
No, I'm just kidding.
So, I mean, yeah. But I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, she is discussing powerful things with powerful people behind closed doors, and we'll never know about any of those discussions. And how far beyond the realm of possibility is it that she would go home from a long day of hard Nancy Pelosi work or whatever it is she does and sit at the dinner table with her husband Paul and say, yeah, I spoke to a Microsoft rep today. That's literally all she would have to say.
Yeah.
And Paul could go, because he's a hedge fund manager, he could go to work the very next day, make a big old play on Microsoft, and then watch that sweet money roll right in. And again, they've done this time and time again. I saw a stat that said in 2008, her net worth was around 38 million. Flash forward to 2018, it's like 114 million. Now, how does she do this? So it's
as a public servant, right? Like,
absolutely.
Okay.
It's insane. It's insane. I mean, because look, you're already making like 6 digits as a public service.
That's what's
as a
crazy
public
to me, right?
Anyway.
Like, you already make what to me and you and Gavin is a shit ton of money, man. Yeah. If I was making fucking 100 after taxes, probably coming home with like 110 grand a year at least, dude. What the fuck? I would never be bitching about money again. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I absolutely understand. It's abhorrent behavior, and they just flaunt it in your face. She's not the only one that does it, obviously, but she is the most flashiest. She is the flashiest with it. That's why anytime I see her name come across my screen when it comes to financial stuff, like I know it's something going to be good in there, because it's never small, and it's always something. Because you can go back just a little bit. She bought a bunch of Tesla right before Joe Biden announced the infrastructure, or not infrastructure plan, but the plan to invest in all the electric vehicles and stuff like that. she's gone back and made like big investments in CrowdStrike. She's got big investments in Amazon, Apple. The list goes on and on and on and on. And yeah, I mean, she is playing the market like a professional.
Might be bullshit, but didn't she end up inevitable, or at some point, was this her that was investing in that same app that they used for the Iowa shit?
Oh, okay. So Shadow app that was done by super PAC called Pacronym. And I don't think that she has anything to do with that specifically. No.
Okay, tight. Thanks for the clarity on that. I'm sorry.
No. But I mean, that's his own can of beans. Like, I mean, look, because I mean, that super PAC actually owns a news outlet, but you wouldn't know. It's called Courier.
Courier, interesting. I've never heard of that.
Courier. It's called Courier Newsroom.
Interesting.
But that's a little aside.
Sure.
But like this should be, I mean, we look back and we say, okay, I'm not sure if you guys remember, but right around the beginning of the pandemic last year, or at the lockdown stage of it, at least, there was the big hubbub about Senators Perdue, Loeffler, Senator Burr, a lot of that
even
stuff,
Tucker
right?
Carlson was calling them like fucking people betraying their countries or whatever.
That's because that's exactly what they did. But then we've also got the conversation. I mean, so I don't believe it's of my opinion that you public servants, especially congressmen and women, should not be allowed to own stock in any form whatsoever. I don't care if that's in a blind trust or if it's in a freaking 401k IRA. I mean, honestly, I just don't. I mean, because there's always going to be a opportunity for impropriety whenever you do that.
You can get your 1% from your checking account. That's it.
Yeah. And look, I drive the point home is that, like, again, while Nancy Pelosi is the flashiest one, and then of course everybody's going to dogpile on a Republican whenever he does it, and they do it. But also we've got weird stuff going on. Like I reported last year that while these funds or these investments are in a trust, Ro Khanna and his very wealthy wife of his, I mean, if you look through their trust accounts, and I'm not sure if they're all blind trusts or not, but you look at their trust accounts. I mean, Raytheon, General Dynamics, tons of defense companies, pharmaceutical. I mean, right at the beginning of the lockdown, whoever is managing Ro Khanna's money or Ro Khanna's family money was a pretty shrewd operator, because right around the beginning of the lockdown, the one thing they did was they sold a shit ton of casinos and they bought a shit ton of Pfizer and a bunch of DuPont, to make the PPE equipment or PPE and stuff like that. Bro,
I'm not a socialist, Khanna.
Well, his response to me back then was that, it's his wife's money and that he's not going to tell his wife what to do with her money and stuff like that. Whatever. But even though I must say that John Kerry, who also has a very, very wealthy wife, he somehow talked her into divesting from like 400 separate companies just about a month ago, whenever he was I guess I'm not sure if he was confirmed to his post. I'm not even sure if his post was
the envoy
worthy, the envoy position or whatever, but he still had to sign an ethics agreement, and that required his wife to divest from a lot of different companies, which makes you wonder.
But is she the one that was involved with the Heinz ketchup or whatever?
That's she's the heiress to that fortune. And so she they divest from these, and you look at Ro Khanna, it's like, did John Kerry just hit you from the left? But also in reality, the fact of the matter is that presidential appointees, nominees, anybody that's got to be confirmed by the Senate have to sign ethics agreements that many times require them to divest from most of their individual stock investments. And a lot of them just do what like Janet Yellen did. When Janet Yellen was confirmed the Secretary of the Treasury, she divested from all her individual stock holdings and she threw it all into an index fund. So instead of just banking on one tech company, she's banking on all of them now. Which is, again, I mean, I guess it's better. You're not showing favoritism to one exact company. Now you're kind of for the whole industry.
I mean, like, especially for a guy, and I mean, not to go back and hammer Ro Khanna, but that is a guy that I consider myself to be much more politically aligned than like Mitch McConnell, whose wife is also fucking rich as shit and obviously is, metal, like, obviously the politics are metal there, but it's kind of like you expect that from a guy like Mitch McConnell. He's an odious piece of shit and he's there to make everybody's life worse on the behalf of corporations. But when you see a guy like Ro Khanna, it starts to click why he's like, oh, I'm a capitalist. Like, oh, this is why Silicon Valley doesn't come after him. Like, these are the kind of things where I'm like, oh, this is why you're not getting your fucking, raising hell about antitrust, even though it's crippling San Francisco. Right. This is why you're not doing all this shit, because you are fucking making money for it. And it's like, like I get it. Like, okay, nominally you don't want to tell your wife what to do, but like you're married to this person. Like your guys' ethics and morals are gonna have to be bled together. Like, sorry, but you're a fucking congressperson. Like, you know what I mean?
If your finances are intertwined with a like sitting representative in the federal government, then I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that your finances and that person's finances are pretty inextricably linked. And even a image of corruption, even a suggestion of corruption is too much. That's not acceptable. That shouldn't even be possible. So I just think it's ridiculous that people that have this much control over the levers of power, over these kind of decisions, can then proceed to benefit financially to this degree. And it goes unspoken. It goes uncalled out. Seemingly no one is upset about it. Even sometimes when I bring up this kind of a thing to people, they're just kind of like, well, what do you mean? Like they have every right to invest in the stock market, like blah, blah, blah. Like why are you people not more mad about this? They're literally enriching themselves based on the policy and the legislation that they're influencing. That's outrageous. That should be criminal easily.
It's kind of like the same. It's the same way that people don't take like any kind of financial crime seriously, though, right? Do you think it comes back to that?
I think what it is, I mean, and I don't mean to bring up Ro Khanna just to turn it away from Nancy and shit on Ro Khanna, but what I'm really trying to illustrate here is that this isn't a partisan issue. This is going on whether you're a corporate Democrat, a progressive Democrat, or a Republican or whatever. This is something that goes on and on and on. And as far as financial stuff goes, like we live in such a partisan society and we have such a partisan media now that it's hard. You're not going to see a lot of your typical liberal mainstream media institutions run a lot of negative stories about Nancy Pelosi. But you will see them very quickly hop up on the Senator Loeffler's and the or former Senator Loeffler at this point, and then former Senator Perdue. I guess they're out of a job now.
Didn't Feinstein also, wasn't she involved in that, and she didn't really get as much coverage?
Yeah, actually, so fine. Yeah, I mean, and another thing about Pelosi, she bought up a shit ton of slack right at the beginning of the pandemic.
That was smart.
Yeah, it would have been smarter if she'd have bought Zoom.
Yeah,
but
did she not?
No, she didn't. Like, so I guess she messes up sometimes.
That's dumb.
And well, who did you just mention? You said Feinstein, right?
Yeah.
Feinstein was actually, I did look into this. Feinstein was investing in a company called Allogene, which was I believe they are a cancer-related pharmaceutical company or medical company. So it was kind of hard to draw like a huge distinction there between COVID, and that was the thing. We were looking at who was trying to take advantage of the COVID market, basically, and definitely Pelosi, whoever was running Ro Khanna's accounts, definitely was doing it. Obviously, Loeffler, Perdue, and Burr all did the same thing, because this is what they do. When DC is full of opportunists, and they don't care about us.
Trillions of fucking dollars into Wall Street from the New York Federal Reserve. Trillions of dollars a day, and no fucking mum's the word about it. It's because all the people that voted for the CARES Act and were like, "Sorry guys, we have to do this for big business," are secretly fucking benefiting from it. Even the people like Ro Khanna, apparently. This is a fucking outrage. I don't know. I'm learning a lot of new things right now, so I'm a little pissed off. But I'm just like,
I would just say this is that obviously we can agree that at least us three can probably agree that whether it's individual stocks or trust funds or whatever, it's not a good thing that our government officials are able to own stocks. Again, presidential cabinet appointments, anything confirmed by the Senate has to divest. Congressmen and women, both the House and the Senate, do not. And I think that's a bit of a weird thing, a weird way of running things.
That's an obvious weasel move.
But the biggest problem, and people would ask, well, in a vacuum, what's the biggest issue here? It's because these politicians are financially profiting from the same companies that they're supposed to be regulating. All right. They're not investing in mom and pop stores. They're investing in Amazon and Apple and Google, the companies that run this country. And it's not a good look. How can we ever take you seriously whenever you say you're going to clamp down on big tech or whatever it may be that you're trying to say? How can we take you seriously?
Or save small businesses from the devastation of coronavirus?
Right. And if you've got like $50 million tied up in Amazon, Apple, and Google and Microsoft, how am I supposed to take you seriously? So that's why we need to really seriously have a huge discussion about this. But I think the discussion is all we're going to have because, as I said, Pelosi herself was on the committee that removed the amendment from HR1 that would have fixed a lot of this, or at least been a good first step.
Well, I think
they don't want any part of it.
I just want to accentuate one point you made there, which is something that's so important that I think doesn't get said enough, but that, you're absolutely right. If all these members of our government have interest in companies like Amazon doing well, what does that mean for the small business economy, which has been so economically devastated? It means it's in their best interest for those small businesses to close up shop and for companies like Amazon to vacuum up that market share. So, I mean, that's just devastating if you think about it from that sense. If you think about the small businesses in this country, which are already, of course, just like I said, devastated. I mean, now there's literally a financial incentive for these legislators to keep them down, to keep them from coming back. That's fucking crazy, especially considering the fact that, more and more people in more and more communities across this country have no choice but to work for a fucking Amazon or Walmart or one of these mega global corporations.
Yeah, I mean, look, you nailed it on the head, man. This is just one of many problems. And if anybody wants to take anything away from this Pelosi story, it should be just simply this. I mean, any objective person can see that Pelosi is she's obviously one of the most unliked politicians in the entire country. But they also, she's obviously corrupt, right? I mean, it's obvious, right? I mean, any objective person can look at that and see that. And the discussion is that, this is just another link in the chain. This is how they operate. This is something that's been going on for years and years and years, and will continue to go on until people make enough fuss about it. They're going to have to retire sometime, right? So, I mean, honestly, guys, I don't know how we get out of this mess, because the people that would lose the most, right, are the ones that are making the rules for it, and they don't want to do that. And I hold this opinion: if you want to be a public servant, you should have to live off of a public servant's salary, and that's it. You shouldn't have any stocks, nothing like that. It's just, how bad do you want to be a public servant? If you,
it's crazy that even has to be said.
But if you don't want to give up your investments, you don't want to be a public servant that bad, at least in my opinion.
And I just want to echo this, because obviously the three of us walk this walk, right? Obviously we're all three fucking capable guys. If we had connived the best way to become fucking personalities and make money racketeering through the fucking, grift machine of writing, being personalities, whatever, we could have made a lot more fucking money. I could make more money if I wanted to talk about propping up fucking Biden, selling ads on this fucking podcast. I could probably quit my fucking day job if I wanted to, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to prop up this bullshit system. I don't want to I want to be able to go to sleep at night knowing, hey, at least I fucking fought back, right? At least I gave it my shot, even though we're fucking all going to shit right now. And it's like, we have these principles and we're holding them at the lowest level when it would be the easiest to sell out, but it's like, why can't these people who have so much already, they're going to have 6 figures in taxpayer money to keep them comfortable, to keep them not thinking about money ever, so they can focus on the will of the people, right? They're making way more, double the fucking median salary of a fucking working American, right? So they're basically a manufactured aristocracy of sorts. And of course, people are going to be like, that's not that much money. Go fuck yourself. It's a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? People
Anybody that thinks that's not a lot of money have never been poor.
Exactly. I'm like, people are always like, you've never lived in Manhattan. It's like, move then. You know what I mean?